But we ought to wait for her.
Right, we're now live on YouTube.
All right, thank you, Paul. Okay, welcome everybody to tonight's planning meeting. Have we got anybody here for the public session? No? No, good. Apologies for absence. None?
No.
No, thank you. Any declarations of interest? No. Oh, here's Catherine. Item 3, minutes of the last meeting. Is everybody happy to receive and agree those?
Yes.
Councillor Cole? Oh, you were just agreeing. Okay. Item 4, motion from Councillor Harvey, Appendix A. Would you like to take the floor, John?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, obviously this has come up in the last few days, although the problem has been around for a lot longer than that, but it's something I've only really become aware of in recent times. And I think what strikes me really is how much I've become aware of it now and how much of aware of it I wasn't in the past. And I speak therefore as a man who generally walks around the town at whatever time of day, not feeling in any way worried or concerned. And I contrast that with a lot of women, and I'm learning about this all the time, who in many ways do walk around with lots of fear, concern, worry, niggles, whatever you'd want to describe it as. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that came up from debate on social media about all of this was how we don't have street lights up to the estate, Rumbold's Fields on the Tinswick Road. And genuinely, I thought, I had not noticed that. And I thought, well, once I was aware of it, that's one of those things, once you become like a learning new word, suddenly you see it everywhere. So then I'm thinking, what the heck? Why weren't lights put in at the same time as the wide path? So therefore I did a bit of digging around and found that lights are mentioned, I think, in the section 106, although reading the report that Catherine has kindly prepared, it seems to be a little bit vague, and as is the one with some section 106 agreements, perhaps there's a bit too much of a gap in exactly what is required. Because it strikes me there are street lights from the new roundabout down to the estate from the A421. But as soon as you get to the estate and the main entrance to it as it currently stands, the lights then disappear, and then the ordinary lights don't then reappear until you get to Westfields. So there's quite a large gap with basically hedges on either side, albeit on one side there is the the industrial estate, and behind the hedge is part of Westfield. But a large chunk, probably about maybe 400 meters, something of that order, where there are no lights at all. And I think this is concerning, and there's no need for it. And the developer really ought to have put in street lamps at the time that the path was being put in. And for me, it isn't just about safety, concerning and important though that is, it's also about connectivity. I mean, this new estate where lots of lovely people have joined our town, don't they feel a bit cut off in that their way home and so on, or way into the town is not lit like everybody else is lit? If I was living there, I'd be thinking, hang on, do they regard us as being part of Buckingham or not? So I think it's of that concern, as well as the concern for safety. I'm not saying that Buckingham objectively is an unsafe place. Objectively, we are a very safe town, obviously, but actually it's about the fear. And I remember back in 1998, when the Crime Disorder Act was being debated and the bills were being promoted, I argued very strongly. I was a one-man sort of lobby campaign to try and get the crime and disorder partnerships concerned with the actual crime, but also the fear of crime, because the fear of crime is quite disabling to a large number of people, mainly, of course, women. Not only women, but a large number of people are disabled by their fear of crime. Yeah. And I think it should be the responsibility of everyone, including us as a town council, who are involved in taking action to improve community safety, is our concern should be not only for the actual crime, but fear of crime too. And this is a small change that I think we really should be arguing very coherently and very forcefully for, that those streetlights are needed now, not in 6 months' time, not in 2 years' time, but now, because if we don't get them in now, I know what will happen. We'll be here in the middle of winter again. We're talking about this in December, and nothing will have happened. Now is the time to commission this, and I urge Buckinghamshire Council to look carefully at the Section 106 and argue very closely with, with the developers that really is their responsibility and their money that should be coming forward to put these street lamps in place. I think that's about all I wanted to say, but obviously happy to say more as we go. But I just think it needs to happen. It needs to happen now.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Mahi? You're muted. Andy?
I totally agree with Councillor Harvey on this. If Councillor Such, we remember some time ago, we fought hard for the lights not to be removed from the bypass. There are the lights from Buckingham to Tinchwick, and the lights on the bypass to Tesco's. And after a few emails, they were still removed. And while Councillor Harvey is pursuing the other one, I think the lights should be reinstated. I know they've taken all the lamps out, but I think in the present climate, what's happening, they should be reinstated for the safety of the people of Buckingham.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think it has to do with this particular motion, no. So maybe that can be brought back to another meeting for discussion. But you've got a very valid point. Councillor Stuckbury.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, this estate's got a long history with the Town Council. We took a decision just recently to look at taking it over. When the Section 106 was negotiated, and Councillor Warren White sat here, he was with me when we fought very hard to actually get the roundabout put in and the lights together, put in at the sign. We also managed to achieve the cycleway and the footway in it, which was not easy to do. But we managed to get that in, and we also managed to get the roundabout constructed in advance of the estate, which wasn't what the developers wanted to do. Now, I've been in correspondence with the officer around this. I've had correspondence with him, and though I can see and agree absolutely that we need to get the lights down the Tinjit Road, the Section 106 is particularly unclear about that. It does identify that there will be lights on the areas that were negotiated, which is there'll be lights, I believe, my memory of it, for the cycleway and for the railway walk, probably. So yeah. I think we need to look at this in the round. I think how we approach this, I should imagine the 278 works, which are the works to do with the estate, probably start at the entrance of one of the estates and goes to the roundabout. My understanding of Section 106 agreements is there's only so many points of contact within a Section 106 when a council can apply for uplift and stuff out of them, and they can't just put everything in. So though I think, yes, Buckinghamshire Council should come back and fund these lights, we need to look very carefully at Section 106, and we need to not make claims which we can't necessarily substantiate. I think we need to look through it. It doesn't look like they've added it in there in any defined way, although the words could be interpreted that they have. Now, I think the principle of establishing lights down the Tinjit Road is a good one. There's notes from Catherine, which came from the officer, which you can read. I've got my own emails from the officer on the subject. I was approached about 2.5 months ago about this subject by a resident, a new resident on the estate. And I started looking into it about then. That's why I started this correspondence. That's why I've got Section 106 and everything to look through. The officer is very useful. Now, what we need to do is actually, if we agree this tonight, we need to actually then know how we're going to take this forward. Because if it isn't in the Section 106 and we can't fund it, the idea that we could go to the community board, as was suggested, is probably ambitious, because this is quite a financial scheme. The likelihood of some other development coming on up there in the short term is probably not likely to fund it. So we need to make a really strong case to get the cabling in. Now, I'm unclear whether that footpath was part of the construction to do with the roundabout and all those works, which are one set of works. Now that's gone down to the industrial estate and on down the road. But I would temper what we've got to do with the realities of where we are, because making false hopes that we can't achieve would be irresponsible. So I would support the motion in the sense that we go to Bucks County Council to try and Buckinghamshire Council, to try and resolve this issue. And I think we need to sit down line by line and go through the Section 106 methodically and see whether we think those sections refer to it. I think they probably refer to the lighting to do with the cycleway, which will be constructed after so many houses are constructed. So they may think that was their contribution to lighting to get to the town centre, because when we were doing that, if you remember, when we were working on this as a council and looking at it, and we strongly wanted connectivity from that estate into the secondary schools and the junior school. And we knew that that estate wouldn't be sustainable without connectivity. Now, saying all that, I'm happy to vote for the motion, but I think we need to bring back an amendment to it, in the sense that we amend it to say we will agree the motion and look into all aspects of this to go forward with a proper proposal. Just saying we want something isn't really going to produce anything. So I think we need to put the words in there. We agree the motion and we'll seek all opportunities to deliver these lights on the Tindrick Road in partnership. Leave it at that, because that doesn't tie us down to any particular thing that we may do. And what we shouldn't do is try to overpromise, because in the end, we haven't got the finance to replace the lights down the Tindrick Road. The Gorkett Parish Council, if you recall, they invested their own money into putting solar lights from Gorkett to Buckingham. I was involved in that historically, but I think that's maybe the sort of option we've got to look at, is how we get it there. Because if we're going to do it, why don't we follow the council's policy of trying to be green, and try to, if we get any lights there, try not to add to the carbon footprint of the community, and it would be a good addition. So that's really where I am. So I think that as you can accept the amendment to it, I think I'm happy to support it.
But I don't think the your amendment, because you're worried about over promising, is what I got from what you were saying, and I get that. We don't want to promise something that we can't deliver, because the wording of it is seek to accelerate the installation, but we don't know where we are on any part of. Can I just ask the town clerk, have you looked through the Section 106 and Section 278 agreement to see if there's anything in there?
Not in detail. I'm not aware of anything. Catherine might give you a better answer than I would.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
What I put in the supporting paper is all that there is in the 106 and 278. And there is 200 and something pages of it. So I had gone through it. But it really underlines the fact that we are not permitted to enter into negotiations on Section 106s. We're not even allowed to attend. I'm sure that we could have said something about having it a bit clearer or something like that if we had, but we've never been allowed in.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're drawn up by people who don't know the locality and may have assumed that would have street lighting on it.
All right, thank you. Councillor Harvey, you wanted to come back? You're muted, John. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's a classic thing, isn't it? I hear what Robin says, but the motion's not promising anything. It's simply a statement of purpose that we would seek to accelerate the installation, and that's all. Obviously, that would be the job is then for the Buckinghamshire Council to crawl through its Section 106 agreement, and obviously in negotiations with the developer, because we're kept out of those negotiations, as Catherine has just said, and see what can be done. It's not within our gift to put this in at the stage. The motion is simply about asking Buckinghamshire Council to accelerate things and make this happen. I mean, it strikes me that, I mean, this is something that it's like when they built Lace Hill and they didn't put in broadband, and we all went, really? How can you honestly build, you know, an estate in the last 20 years and not put in broadband? And I think then we as a town council got very wise to that and made sure that we made our representations to the Buckinghamshire Council about doing that for this estate, St Rumbold's Fields. So I think, honestly, I think we need to up our game as a town council. And I'm damn sure the next time I see a large development like this on the books, I'm going to be asking questions about street lighting to ensure that they do get the message, and that is woven in precise terms into the Section 106 agreement. But it comes back again, as Catherine has just said, to repeat, is why keep us out of the Section 106? You know, we know our ground. I've walked, you know, the streets. We all walk the streets on a regular. We know what's going on in our town, and to keep excluded from those negotiations is frankly just does not make sense. It's stupid, petty politics, and it would involve us with, you know, us and the parish councils around would just make so much more sense. Anyway, to go back to the point, I don't think the motion needs amending, and if Councillor Suchby wants to put forward a motion for an amendment, I'll listen to that, but I'm not taking on board the change that he's made, because I think the motion is fine as it is.
Okay, thank you. Going back to what Robin said about the community board suggestion, I think that's an outrageous thing to say, because I don't feel that's what the money is there for, to fund street lighting. I don't think that's what it's there for at all. So, right, back to you, Councillor Stotchbury.
Yeah, thank you very much. I listened to the history, but we have to, Lace Hill development, let's be quite clear, when Lace Hill development came forward, it was in probably 2007. And at 2007, the district council did not in any way want to talk to us, and they did not in any way consult or follow forward any of the information we put to them. So it's not Buckinghamshire Council. So that's them. Now with the Tindrick Road development, it's partially true and partially not correct, because we are involved in negotiations in the Section 106, which we agreed at full council, because we're further forward than we ever have been, because we're now looking at possibly taking that over. So let's try and be truthful in this, and factual. Let's not try and link the two estates together. And the situation with the Lace Hill estate was the council did not, and decisions were taken, and we were never involved. And that's why Lace Hill is as it is, and that's why for a number of years I've been involved in many different aspects, and I'm involved now with very different people in trying to resolve those issues. And I know it fills Councillor Warren White's mailbag as well, because I see the correspondence, and it's a difficult one for us to all sort out.
Yeah, but can we stick to the Tindrick Road?
This estate, Chairman, this estate, we did get involved in it. Now, when I say, and I'm being careful, because I want to get lights down the Tindrick Road. So what I'm saying is, if we're going to approach this, we have to agree the motion, then find the way within the Section 106 to make the argument that it has to be delivered. Because just going back to them and saying, we think you should pay for this, because you should have done it, whatever, they'll come back and say, well, actually, Buckinghamshire Council wasn't Buckinghamshire County Council, and that negotiation happened under Buckinghamshire County Council. All the people have changed 3 times since that. The cabinet members have changed remarkably. The council has changed remarkably, and it's got a different remit. So I think we don't need to start blaming them presently for what was took before. That's the reality, because it's a different council. It's a unitary council. It's going to be looking at the whole Section 106 in one department rather than split. So that's going to be a good thing. So let's approach this in an adult way. And when I say, when my point of the amendment was not to deprive from the motion and not to undermine the motion. My point was, and what I'm saying is, we should seek to deliver this by going through the Section 106, looking forward and go through to them with formal proposals of why they should do this. And if we can prove that there was an error in the previous council's operations, that it wasn't considered on A, or it should be considered on B. Then we could probably get the council to come and support us 100% in delivering that. And that's why I want to win. I don't want just to have an argument. I actually want it put right. So that's why I'm sort of saying. So if you want to set the amendment, which nobody seconded, so it's cursory anyway, that we do that. That we go forward and look for a way to, with officers of this council, to go carefully through the paper and see if there's a way that we can progress this with Buckinghamshire Council to deliver these lights. If then Buckinghamshire Council come back and disagree with us after we propose the information, then I'm willing to be miserable with them. But I think at this moment, I'm miserable because we haven't got lights. And I've read the Section 106 historically, and I helped negotiate parts of that Section 106 as a county member with Councillor White, as we would never have got the roundabout built in the first place. So let's not run away with this this as it is. So I'm hoping that people will see the logic of that, because presuming just with the motion as it is, it doesn't give us an action and it doesn't show us how we're going to go forward. And we have to act responsibly, because all we're going to do is write back to an office to say we want something. That's a bit.
No, I get your point.
So my amendment would be, if it's not accepted, and I'll go back to it, is that we seek ways through the Section 106, through careful study, to go back to Buckinghamshire Council to work cooperatively to deliver these lights. I think that's the right.
If that's your amendment, then I'm happy to second that, because that is an action then. So I'm happy to second that. John, you happy to agree the amendment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'm happy to accept it. I mean, honestly, I genuinely think that the motion says enough. But if Councillor Ashby thinks that he wants to add that wordage to make it more pragmatic and useful,
no, it's to make it work.
It's not going to hurt, is it? At the bottom line, it's not going to hurt. Yeah. Okay, can we have a show of hands to agree John's motion, please?
Chairman, could you just reiterate the amendment?
Who's taking our notes tonight to go back over the amendment?
Louise is.
Louise, could you read back Councillor Stutchbury's amendment, please?
I have agreed the motion and will seek all opportunities to deliver these lights on the Tindrick Road in partnership with Buckinghamshire Council. Is that correct?
Yeah, through the section, by looking carefully through the Section 106 agreements. We've got to put that in there, because that's where we're going to find the money. It ain't going to come from.
Yeah, no, that's fine, Robin.
That's fine. Yep. Okay.
Thank you. Happy with that, Martin? All right. So show of hands to agree to the motion, please. I think that's unanimous.
Yeah, that's unanimous.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, item 5, Neighbourhood Plan, Vale of Aylesbury Plan. We've got Appendix B, 5.1. Would anybody like to speak on this one? Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chairman. Why the Oxford-Cambridge arc? That's the question. This is an extremely good government document. It's measured. It puts in very simple terms what the benefits are for anybody, any local authorities taking part in the Oxford-Cambridge arc, which will cover us over the next 25 years. Buckinghamshire Council, as you know, wants to be disassociated from this. And I can understand that. South Bucks, 50 miles south of here, has no interest at all in this Oxford-Cambridge arc. Aylesbury, to a certain extent, doesn't have any interest. And now that we've lost the expressway, you know, there is even more reason that we in North Bucks need to be allied with Oxford, Bicester, Milton Keynes, Bedford, Cambridge, Peterborough. You know, Buckingham has a university, the best private university in the country. It's got a huge amount of motorsport activities around us. Silverstone, Bicester, even in Buckingham itself, we've got a dozen motorsport companies. And all this makes our role in the arc even more important. I think we have got to go out on our own. But Buckinghamshire Council doesn't want to do it. We do in Buckingham. We've already expressed an interest in this. And I think we want to be involved, and we should indicate our interest to the government in this. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mark. Right, Councillor Stutchbury and Councillor Harvey.
I've read the document, and it's an energetic document. It doesn't mention Buckingham anywhere in the document whatsoever. It mentions Milton Keynes. It mentions the Chilterns. It doesn't. It mentions how it can create economic growth and provides no evidence to demonstrate how that economic growth is going to be delivered and how it will produce jobs and money. So it's a little bit short in the actual information that it needs to provide to curry favour 100% and to be satisfied about it, because what we're talking about, and the document's quite clear what it's talking about, is large accommodations, large cities in North Buckinghamshire. So let's not get carried away with where we want to be with this. You know, I was involved with the first motion through district, which we all agreed the district council amended to actually get against the Cambridge Expressway. And the reason that's been gone is because it's probably made no sense financially at the moment, and the environmental damage. This proposal is far worse than the expressway or the Cambridge Expressway, because it's not sustainable now. It lacks anything about infrastructure. It doesn't say how it's going to provide these places with infrastructure to support them. The government's planning document says that large accommodations would provide infrastructure, but that hasn't passed through Parliament yet. If you agree with it or don't agree with it, that's not the question here. I think this was a document now which is out of date. It was deliverable based upon the expressway. It is not deliverable anymore. The figures it quotes, 163 billion per annum. There's nothing in there that gives me evidence where these figures come from. They're large figures, and what you've got to remember, two estates, anyone who lived here when Milton Keynes first came, and the great disturbance and upset that caused the area, and then there was going to be an airport at Milton Keynes, if you remember, all those years ago. Different people fought and argued against that. When I would say be involved in this, it's involved is to actually get the information to see how they're going to deliver it. Now, I understand Buckinghamshire Council has took a decision because of the way this is their logic. I understand is because of the way the structure of the art project was. When they were in it in the first place, there was 5 representations in the ARC area. At the moment, they're outbidded in the sense that they're one voice. So the people either side of them can make a decision. It's what they call the decision from the ARC people would be a joint decision. So if they said we want to put all the houses in Buckinghamshire, the joint decision would be all the houses would be in Buckinghamshire, because all the other people could vote for that. And if Buckinghamshire was in there, they'd be outvoted. So I think the logic, I can't speak for the leader of Buckinghamshire Council, but I think that's his logic, that he didn't want to be shoehorned and blackmailed into building all over North Bucks. If that was the case, and I haven't spoke to him about this personally, I'm just reading between the lines, he's probably got a good point. He's probably got a really good point there. And if you remember when they wanted us to be part of the consultation, which was a trick question, to be part of the consultation for the expressway. What they really wanted to do was drag Buckinghamshire into that, so that when the conversations went on, it was a done deal. So I think we should be very, very, very careful how we approach this. I'm not enthusiastic about Buckinghamshire becoming North Buckinghamshire being built over. I farmed in that land. I grew up in this land, and okay, I'd like to see it green. So I don't go along with Councillor Cole that we should be involved in this until we've done some proper evidence research and get some of the questions in this document answered. There's no sustainability in it. The whole arc is not sustainable now. It's got no infrastructure following it, and all these places will be built. All these services have got to be delivered, and it doesn't say how it's going to deliver all these services. And if we're not careful, we could end up with a city in, say, for instance, adjacent the other side of Winslow, or we could end up with a city down near Marsh Gibbon, and because of the railways there, and what we end up with, no connectivity. You can't build it all on the railways because the HS2 is going to not have isn't going to be any use to it. It's all going to rely on the East-West Rail, which hasn't been constructed yet. And I understand that the funding has gone away from the Arc to Aylesbury line. So I'm not buying into this. I want the environment, and so I'm really nervous about getting involved because there's nothing in here that gives me confidence that this can be delivered without wrecking the environment, without unsustainable development, and us being outvoted and ended up being the building site because nobody else wants it. So I'm afraid if you want to vote for this, you can leave me out of it because I want to be around quite a while in politics, and I think this is a mistake.
Okay, I think Councillor Harvey was next.
I would simply say that I support what Councillor Mark Cole has said. I think we should be in there finding out what's going on. By being involved, we're not saying it's the right thing, but we're saying we need to understand what's happening. And if Buckinghamshire Council are doing what I would call a three monkeys approach to this, and they think it'll just go away if they don't get involved, then I think that's a very unwise position to take. I think we need to find out what's happening, and if needs be, help neighbouring parishes that are going to be impacted to let them know what's happening. I don't think being involved in something means that you support it, because I think a lot of the things that Councillor Stutchbury is saying are certainly true. There are big issues about sustainability and big issues about overdevelopment and big issues about whether the plan could ever really happen in quite the way that they're suggesting. But that for me is all the more reason to I mean, we're a small authority. We're not going to have much influence. Although that said, I think it ought to be called the Buckingham Bow rather than the Oxford-Cambridge Arc, personally, but that's my view on it. I just think we should be involved in some shape or form, at least to the level of getting the information, because at the moment, Buckinghamshire Council are not even going to be getting the information from this lot, because they've just stood aside and said, no, not going to happen, not going to be involved. And we've already agreed as a town council that we want to find out what's going on in order to inform the people of Buckingham so they can make up their own minds. Surely we should be doing that rather than just simply, sticking our fingers in our ears and saying, no, let's go away. We've got to be involved. So I support Mark, and I would second his motion, obviously. Although I do think that it's more or less repeating what we've done already as a town council. Yeah,
I agree. Do members mind that Buckinghamshire Councillor Warren White wanted to clarify something? Are members happy for us to listen to this?
Be interested to know whether my assumptions about why Martin Tett took his decisions are correct. Yeah.
All right, thank you guys. Councillor White, what would you like to say?
Thank you for your indulgence. Just to clarify two things. I can't possibly confirm or deny Councillor Stutchbury's comments, but they're not a million miles away from what I might have said. But there are two very, very different things. I think you're mixing this up. Both Councillor Cole and Councillor Harvey have misunderstood the very different distinctions between the Oxford to Cambridge Leaders Group, which is the informal governance that is led by some councils within the ARC, and the Oxcam Spatial Framework, which is a government policy statement. Now, the latter is what's on your agenda, not the former. And the latter is a top-down approach to planning from central government to a dedicated planning unit from MHCLG to top-down plan for the region. They're not asking for participants. This is a separate standalone unit. So it's not something you can join. Buckinghamshire can't join it. Oxford can't join it. No one can join. This is MHCLG developing its own spatial framework. And Buckinghamshire Council took the view through the Leaders Group that the Leaders Group wasn't standing up for Buckinghamshire's interests. And it was better to do that as a unitary council with our own growth board, and for this council, Buckinghamshire Council, to develop its local plan. not to be subservient to a top-down plan. So by all means, the town council can support this like it did with the expressway in the early days, but you will suddenly realise this is not something you want to be part of.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Hirons was next.
Yeah. Well, I hear what Councillor White's just said, but I tend to agree really with John Harvey. I think we've got to just, we aren't very important. We're not very big. We haven't got any real money. You know, we haven't really got any authority really. But I think we want to keep just a toe in the water so we can see what's going on. And I think that is quite important because we're obviously not going to get it, by the look of it, through Buckinghamshire Council. And I think we do need to know, if only for interest's sake, what they are planning for this area. Because we're not going to be able to do anything about it, but we want to know.
Yeah, so it's information really, isn't it? It's keeping, like you said, a toe in the water. All right, Councillor Stotchbury quickly, and then we'll wind this one up.
Well, if you listen to what Councillor White actually said, he said you couldn't join it. It's a top-down government imposition upon Buckinghamshire. What it isn't is something that we can join. What he did say was that Buckinghamshire can't join this either. So if you'd listen to those two statements, there's a disjunction in this fear that we can be informed. Now, if we want to be informed in this, and I want to be informed, the only route we can get informed of this is to go through our Member of Parliament and ask questions that way. The only way I can see that we can get informed, and then write to Buckinghamshire Council and ask to be updated at any changes and stuff that they're doing. Because we can just knock on the door and they'll say, well, who are you? And they'll say, I'm sorry, you haven't got a key, you're not welcome. And we're making a false signal, which we can't deliver. As I said, I'm against this per se, because I don't like the idea of the government building all over North Bucks because it can. We've had quite a lot of Buckinghamshire wrecked with one government project, and I don't really think this is it. And as I said earlier, it is not sustainable. It has not got any infrastructure with it, and we must be wary of saying things that we can't do. So I would like to propose that if we're going to be involved in this, we choose our questions correctly. We write to the Member of Parliament, who is the only person who can speak to them, and we seek to have a proper conversation with Buckinghamshire Council about their conversations with the same people. Then, at that point, when this becomes a warmer document and something is proposed, we can either come out against it, we can support it, or we can point the faults with it. I've nothing that I could go along with, just because Warren and I can disagree on lots of things, and we do, I can assure you. But what he said to you tonight is factually correct and right. And he should know that, because unlike us, he's a cabinet member for development. And I'm just a councillor on Buckinghamshire Council. So I listen to his words very carefully. And Warren and I have got a history of disagreeing with each other. So
can I just
tell you that I think we go through the MP and we go through Buckinghamshire Council seeking clarity about their view on this, and bring it back and make a decision based upon knowledge. Because all we've got is a piece of paper with us for an organisation we can't get into. And what we're saying, we're going to go and consult with them. And if I believe Warren's telling the truth, and we're not even got a door key. Our door key is through the Member of Parliament and through Buckinghamshire Council.
Yeah. Paul, Town Clerk Paul, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, writing to the MP does sound like the sensible thing to do, because he would be the one to be able to clarify something that's outside Buckinghamshire Council's control. And obviously we'll stay in touch with Buckinghamshire Council in terms of their plans locally as they form their view. And I don't think we said anything that members have disagreed with any of the intentions of Buckinghamshire Council. So I suspect we'd have common grounds with them, but we'll find out as we go along.
All right, thank you. Councillor Cole and then Sheena.
Yeah, thank you. Albeit for me to disagree with our learned clerk, but my whole point of my What I said at the beginning of this was that Buckinghamshire Council has disassociated itself from this ARC. I believe that Buckingham Town Council should express an interest in it, and as Councillor Harvey and Councillor Harrons have both said and backed me up, that we're not shut out then, that we are involved. We don't have to do anything about it, but we should at least be involved. Let us hear what's going on. We don't want to be in the dark like Buckinghamshire Council is going to be.
But Chairman, a point of information, this document isn't the ARC. It's a separate document. The ARC document is something completely different. This is a top-down government thing. Councillor White told you that. So we're sort of going back over grounds which he's correct about. So I hate to say this, but he's right. It hurts.
Yeah, well,
it's very painful. But he's right.
All right, thanks, Robin. What I'd like to do is let members speak, and then let them get their points out without being interrupted. Councillor Cole, had you finished?
Yeah, if I could just finish then, yes. The document I have in front of me, which we're looking at tonight, is published by HM Government. It is called Oxford-Cambridge ARC, and it's an introduction to the Oxford-Cambridge ARC spatial framework. How that can be anything except the Oxford-Cambridge ARC, I'm completely failed to understand. That's what it is.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Oh, no, Sheena was next.
Thank you, Chair. Members might find it interesting or useful. Section 4.3 in the document from the government sets out a consultation process and a timetable. Whether or not they'll meet the timetable at the moment, obviously, but there is there are a number of stages, and they are talking about one quite early in 2021 to get the views of the local residents. So I don't know if members might find that useful.
Very much so. Thank you, Sheena. Okay, so oh, sorry, John Harvey, Councillor Harvey.
I couldn't find my mouse. Can I just be moved to a chair, please?
Okay. All right, so it's on the table that we keep our foot in the door and seek to be involved in this. Is that what the general feel is? And as Sheena's pointed out, how we can get involved, and residents and local partners at each stage.
I'll second that if you want to make it a proper motion.
Okay.
I'll put an amendment. I'd like to put an amendment, Chairman. My amendment is that we, as this document is a consultation document about whatever, and I seek Warren to write to the town clerk explaining in writing what he said, because obviously it didn't get listened to. That we write to our MP and seek to use the offices of the Member of Parliament to do this. We work with Buckinghamshire County Council on this ARC, and we respond to the consultation on when we're asked on 4 point such and such. I think that's all we can do. I can tell you I'm against the ARC development per se, and that's why I'm saying it.
Is that amendment agreed? I'll be happy to second it, because it's writing to our MP, and that can only ever be useful. Councillor Harvey, you had your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Well, it's not my motion. It's for Councillor Mark Cole to put forward, which I did send. But again, for the sake of moving on, frankly, I'm prepared to accept personally any amendment that will move it on. I just need to be involved, as Mark has said on several times. We seem to go around. We seem to be going around the houses quite a lot this evening, and not adding lots of sound and fury. But I'm not sure we're adding much content. And frankly, I would like it if all members actually stick with you chairing the meeting and not keep butting in as they are at the moment. That would be helpful to the process of this meeting. So can I ask all members to do that, please?
Thank you, John. Okay, so vote on the amendment first. Those for the amendment, please show.
I believe 1, 2, 3.
Those against the amendment, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Those are...
So
Okay.
Could I just check hands against the motion? Yeah, 4 hands against.
Okay. Those abstaining?
None.
None. Okay, so we take the motion then. Those in favour of the motion?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6.
Those
1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Sorry, it's hard on this, isn't it? 6.
Those against? Those abstaining?
1.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the next one is 5.2, to receive reports on the meetings of the Neighbourhood Plan Working Group. Latest one verbal. Who's given the verbal?
I can introduce it. Others may want to add. Just to note that the meeting most recently looked at the proposed Buckingham survey. So we went through potential questions, tightened them up quite well. Sheena's now gone away to write those up again into their kind of final format, and then we'll circulate them to members and for wider input.
Thank you very much. And we've got Appendix C. So is everybody happy with that? Yep, fabulous, thank you. 5.3, to receive a draft copy of the design guide and recommend its adoption to full council. Appendix D. Would any member like to speak on this? All right, Councillor Stutchbury, then Councillor Harvey.
I'd like to propose that we recommend it to Town Council, as I suggested doing it in the first place, so that we revise the documents. I'd be really silly to change your mind, wouldn't it? So I propose that we recommend it to full council.
That is what we're talking about, Robin.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm proposing we do that.
Okay.
I'm looking for a seconder.
Do we need a seconder? Because it's what we're talking about. If we do, then I'm happy to second it. Councillor Harvey and then Councillor Cole.
I was going to say it's great to see Roger's name on it. He's done most of the legwork on this, and that was the reason we've got a revised document. And I think it's great. I think it's really detailed and informative. And if anybody wants to know about the architecture of Buckingham, they just need to look at the design guide now. And really, any developer coming here in the future should be able to look through that and go, you know what, I'm going to build something that will fit with our town, and the guidance is all there. So thanks. I think we should admit our thanks to Roger for the effort and work he's put into this.
Yeah, happily agree to that.
Yes, I endorse what John is saying, and of course Roger's work on that by association. Thank you to the Buckingham Society.
Definitely. Okay, so those who agree, please show hands that we recommend its adoption to full council. Please show.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, that's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Okay, 5.4, to receive notice of the VALP examination dates and agree town council representation. Councillor Cole has actually agreed to be our representation on this. So would anybody like to speak? Karen?
Hello, good evening. Yes, thank you. I just wondered if Councillor Cole and I might perhaps share some notes, because I'm going to be speaking on behalf of the Buckingham Society at the hearing. And obviously we have our views, which are more or less those that we've stated at every stage of the consultation process, now over some 5 years. But I don't think any of them in the society would want to completely oppose what the town council's views might be, or at least we should know what they are, so that we can either sing from the same hymn sheet, or we adopt our different attitudes. So it would be very useful to have the town council's position at the hearings before we go into them.
Yeah, I can't see a problem with that at all. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, Councillor Stutchbury.
I'd just like to say that this is obviously going to be an interim document, because Buckinghamshire Council will have to come forward with a new Buckinghamshire plan. The tragedy, in my personal opinion, about this Vale plan has always been it's insufficient affordability in houses, and it's always been the massive changes to the Buckingham where industrial land was put into housing. And they were both two amendments I put to the district council which were not accepted. One was to increase the affordability, and one was to 35% from 25.
Housing,
one was to return the land behind Gorkett Fields to be industrial, which was our intention, that it would provide work for people. That wasn't the case. So this is an interim document before that. All I can hope that if this difficult document, because let's remember it's now older than one elected authority, it's gone all the way through the district life of one district council, and it's now it's gone through a shadow authority. It's now and gone through 1 year of Buckinghamshire Council. So this document is now out of date anyway. So we need a proper Buckinghamshire plan which looks and balances all these inconsistencies in the historic Vale plan out. So I've got no enthusiasm about it at all. I must say that, because if the time between this plan and the Buckinghamshire plan coming in, the developers will build houses, and those houses will only have to provide 20%, 5% affordable. And as before the Buckinghamshire Council was established, they've agreed a plan in Wickham, and South Bucks haven't got one. So it's all very contested. So I don't think this is anything to celebrate at all. It's a document which is out of date and it needs revising. So I say roll on the day Buckinghamshire Council does a proper plan with taking the whole of the council area into consideration, because this doesn't. It's a historic plan.
Okay, but this is just to
but I'm happy for people to go along to it, but there's nothing for us to really consult on apart from the terrible situation in Mays Morton, because the Osier Way's not coming back up, and the affordable housing was never taken forward to consultation. Councillor Cole and Councillor Hiram went there diligently to hoping to speak on it, and it never ever came up for discussion. So she's gone all the way through to it where it is, without those questions that we wanted to raise on it ever being heard.
All right, Councillor Stotchbury, just to receive notice of the examination dates, can we agree that Councillor Cole is going to be our representation for
agreed.
this? Yeah, show of hands to agree. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I just answering Carolyn's request.
Sure.
We are actually meeting yourself, Chairman, the town clerk, and Hannah, and of course Catherine, on this Thursday, the 15th. Sorry, this Thursday, the 25th, to discuss our approach to this. And of course, Carolyn, we will let you have the results of that meeting.
Yeah.
Will form what I'm going to say to the BALP examiner. That won't take place until the 15th of April. We're down to be heard in the morning, along with Mays Morton Parish Council and Foskett Parish meeting. So I think that's going to be quite an interesting morning we get there. But unfortunately, we can have no say whatsoever now in the affordable housing, which has been a running sore for us. As Councillor Stutchbury said, we weren't heard on either of the two occasions that were earmarked for us, because the inspector ran out of time on both of them, and he's refused to let us make any representation since. So that, I'm afraid, is dead in the water. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, everybody. 5.5 to receive and discuss the updated Winslow Neighbourhood Plan and agree a response. The consultation ends on the 6th of April. As Appendix F. Would anybody like to discuss the Winslow Neighbourhood Plan? Councillor Stutchbury?
I flipped through it with interest this afternoon. And it's quite an interesting document, because it refers to the use of land which they don't own, of what it should be used for, and it refers to things that they might want to do. And one of the sad things about the document, when I looked at it, it looked like they wanted to build over every green space they've got left in Winslow, which I thought was a great shame in the document. But of course, it's not our plan, it's Winslow's plan. The elements around the east-west rail, I'm interested in the station area, and it showed some development going round there. But I surprised how they were in such a rush in different areas to build. They've got their lungs in Winslow, which are their green lungs for people to go out. They put them in for building. I couldn't imagine Buckingham wanting to do that. Perhaps they have a different view about and where they want to be in 60 years' time. But I'm not too sure what we got to say on it, to be honest, because it's a Winslow thing, and I think there's some flaws in it. But that's only just looking at it this afternoon. But bully on with it, I say.
Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I've read this document right through. Very well outlined. Of course, the one thing it doesn't take into account, because it was written before that, is that it looks like the Winslow to Aylesbury rail link may not go ahead. When the government announced its £760 million delivery of the next section of the rail between Oxford and Bletchley Milton Keynes, they didn't confirm the Winslow Bicester Aylesbury rail link that would have been of great importance, of course, to Buckingham residents commuting to London. One thing that does jump out in the plan, we've lost the expressway as well, of course, so the A413 is going to become an extremely busy road when Winslow station opens. And I would like to see, and I'd like us to have a say in that road, that where the junction of Great Horwood Road with the A413 opposite the station is, there should be a roundabout or traffic lights put there. It is already a massive traffic jam place. It always has been. The 40 years I've lived here, it's always been a bad action that they haven't made any provision at all for a roundabout or traffic lights there. And I think in the interest of Buckingham residents who use this road, who will use this road, either to get to Aylesbury or to get to the station, that's something that we should ask Winslow to be looking at.
Is it worth us sending any of our comments to this consultation to Catherine for her to collate and put together, and then they can be sent out to everybody? What do members think?
Yeah.
Councillor Stutchbury. Sorry, Councillor Ivans will come back to you in a minute. Councillor Stutchbury.
I have no problem with what Councillor Mark Cole said, but what we have to do with this is look at the implications to Buckingham. So when Mark's saying about the road which leads from here to the railway station, and that is something that we should be seeking them to have an uplift in the stretch of the road between Buckingham. Because of course, when these things, the first Winslow plan came up, the school there was probably just a conversation, and that's there now. So that road junction as you come into Winslow has changed somewhat. The 30 begins a lot sooner now. So I do think that we need to get some money put into that highway some way and attract some more to it, because it's going to get, hopefully, if the train station's there, people take employment, they'll either be cycling or driving to Winslow. So that road needs to, the connectivity between Buckingham and Winslow needs to be improved. Now, whether that's going to be through lighting the cycleway or whether that's going to be through upgrading the road, but it's not when you come past Akeley, that's not great, is it? That Akeley bend, that's exciting, isn't it? And then when you go through on the way through Padbury, that's always a problem through there because it's quite a narrow stretch, and it's also got there. So I think we need some study done how we get to Winslow, because presumably we'd like people to use the train station there to take employment. So I think that's where I come with any comment.
All right, so how do we want to move forward? Do we want to send our comments to Catherine to collate, or we just take what members have said tonight and leave it at that?
Agreed.
Ask Catherine.
Do you say ask Catherine?
No, to put it together.
Oh, to collate our answers. Yeah. All right, are members generally happy that we send our comments to the neighbourhood plan, to the Winslow neighbourhood plan, to Catherine? Yeah. Yep. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Can I just add an extra bit on this?
Yes, Councillor Mahi.
When the schools close where the 414 is, parents park on the pavement and restrict the road even further. Says Winslow need to either put double yellow lines or try and stop parents from parking on the pavement at school opening and closing times. We need to ask Winslow to do something about that.
Okay, right. Maybe if you put that in your email to Catherine. Yeah, thank you. Okay, next is item 6, action reports, Appendix G. Has anybody got anything on the action list they want to raise? No. I was going to say that the enforcement reports and queries, the Page Hill one, it says that I'm going to obtain addresses. As the councillors that actually live on Page Hill are going to be doing that, I wondered whether it needs my name being on there at all, whether it just councillors to obtain addresses, because we are getting individual councillors highlighting addresses, aren't we, Catherine?
In fact, I've got Councillor Newell's offering today. And the entire collated thing has gone off today, pictures and everything.
Brilliant.
So that can go. That'll go from the action list for next time.
All right, fabulous. Okay, Councillor Harvey.
I'm not sure it's on the list, but I saw the snake the other day up at Lace Hill by the community centre, and it's wonderful. If people haven't been to see it yet, go and see it. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
No, you're right, it's not on the action list, but it is brilliant.
Not a planning thing, I have to say.
I think it's probably on the Environment Committee's list, isn't it?
I thought so.
All right, so nothing on that then. Planning applications, item 7. So we've got Catherine's report. Thank you as ever, Catherine, for your diligent report. It's brilliant as usual. Okay, so 7.1 is 73 Morton Road. Do we have any comments? Do we have any objections? No. So generally okay with this one? We're okay, we're not objecting to this one. Yeah,
I'm abstaining.
Yeah, we'll have your usual caveat. Right, can we have some hands to show that we're not objecting to this one, please? Thank you. Carolyn, thanks. 7.2 is 25 Willow Drive. Comments? None. Show of hands. Show of hands for no objections. Thank you. Carolyn, you can put your hand up if you want, I don't mind.
Abstention.
Yeah, that's fine. 7.3, 19 Bridge Street, takeaway and dry cleaners. Councillor Cole, and then I'm pretty sure Carolyn will want to speak on this. Okay, Councillor Cole first then.
Thank you, Chairman. This application falls in every possible way. First of all, I believe it's retrospective, although Aylesbury Planning doesn't seem to have noticed that, because according to a number of the objectors, work has already started on this. They also say, including John Ganderton, who lives right next door and is a multiple objector, that it is currently occupied, even though the design and access statement say it's not. This is a development of a house. It's a fairly modern house that they want to turn into a dry cleaner and takeaway beneath the first floor, which will be occupied as housing. It's amongst surrounded totally by houses in the conservation area. It just has its own little island, and a lot of those houses around it are also listed. There's demolition involved, and they're proposing to put fencing in down from the house to the road on both sides, close board fencing with downlights, and there'll be a 1 metre high brick wall at the bottom. Now, the biggest problem about this application is that Highways have sort of nodded it through, But they've totally missed the fact this sits on the light-controlled pedestrian crossing, and a very busy one, which school children from several schools use mornings and afternoons. And the highways officer, one Christopher Gordon Luty, has obviously never been to Buckingham or never noticed on the Google Earth that there is a pedestrian light here, which virtually goes into their driveway. This is going to be a huge problem because of all the traffic movements for takeaway, for people dropping in, collecting dry cleaning. There's going to be a lot more than the 60 vehicle movements a day that they're suggesting. I notice environmental health notes that acoustic assessment, which the applicant has made, has completely ignored the residential occupancy of 20 Bridge Street, which is indeed Ganderton's garage, and the Gandertons live over the garage. They have a first floor flat there, which will obviously be impacted by the noise there. Biggest problem though, and I'm indebted to Roger Newell for this, and I'm sure Carolyn will also raise this, this proposal is contrary to saved AVD-LP policy GP8, which states planning permission will not be granted where the proposed development would unreasonably harm any aspect of the amenity of nearby residents, and also policy EE4 of our Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan, which states that the proposed use should not adversely affect nearby residential properties. There are a lot of objections to this, and most of them well reasoned. With that, I rest my case. I propose that we object to this and call it in.
Thank you very much. Carolyn.
Well, I come after Mark Cove, not surprisingly, I'm going to say exactly the same thing. So there's not much point in my repeating all that. Yes, GP8 completely ignored. This is a primary residential area, which obviously the applicant fails to acknowledge. But added to all the things that Mark Cove has already said, we have also put into our objection the willful destruction of what was a fully mature garden in front of this resident's house, just to put in car parking. When you consider that the river is but meters away, the surface water discharge is going to go straight into the river. Quite apart from the climate change effects that the extra rainwater is going to have on everything. I think it is shocking that they should have torn out what is a perfectly good green space just in order to accommodate their so-called vans and their van deliveries. But our biggest objection, of course, is the highways officer failing to recognise that there's a pedestrian crossing at the foot of the entrance. And it's so basic, it takes one's breath away. So the Buckingham Society will be strongly objecting.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stutchbury.
I'm not going to comment on the application. Only to say, if you go, Catherine goes back, there was a similar type of application on the Badgers estate some years back, which might give us where they wanted to turn a property into a takeaway. It was the shop, which is now flats. There might be some information in there which probably be useful to look at. I'm not going to comment on that, other than that might be something to see if there's anything in there, because that didn't happen, did it?
No, and as you say, but it was actually a retail premises. This is a house top and bottom, so it's got no retail activity, whether takeaway or corner shop, at all to redeem it.
Okay, so we've got fully object to this one on the table. Hands up to object to this application. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay.
It can't be unanimous, Chairman, because I'm abstaining.
No, you're abstaining. You're right.
So it can't be unanimous because then
right,
you haven't noted my abstention.
You're right. 7.4, 59 Burley Piece. Any comments? No. So hands up for not objecting to this one. Okay, nearly unanimous. I think that's carried. We don't need any more votes. 7.5 Pringle House on Brackley Road. Any comments? No. Hands up not to object to this one. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah,
2, 3, 4.
thank you. 7.6, 8 Sandhurst Drive. Any comments? Carolyn?
Yes, I'm trying to read my notes here, but I'm pretty certain this is the 2-story side extension with a roof line that isn't really subsidiary to the existing dwelling, and it did seem to impinge quite a lot on its neighbour. It's a little bit higher, I think, than one of the neighbours to the side of the extension. So it seems to refute against the extension guidelines, design guideline number 3, Roger tells me. But I do remember looking at the plan and thinking that the roof is very over dominant in this extension and likely to impinge on the amenity of the neighbour.
Okay, thanks for that. Catherine, have you got anything to say on that?
I agree with Carolyn. It is a very obvious roof because it's at angles to the main roof, so it makes a T shape, and it looms rather. And as I said this afternoon, it does say in the guidelines clearly subsidiary, and it isn't.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, can we add that in with our comment if members are likely not to object? Councillor Try.
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to say, could we go back and say, in principle, but amended plans are need to be resubmitted due to not, more less overpowering.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. Councillor Hirons, then Councillor Ralph.
Wouldn't we normally say that we oppose it, but we would be minded to change our opinion if the roof line was made subsidiary as according to whatever the actual application is, and that's nice, short, succinct, and everything.
Thank you, Councillor Irons. Yeah, they're the words.
I can let you have a few words for free.
Councillor Ralph, then we'll move to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Just in a little bit of mitigation over the looming comments, I do note that in a lot of these drawings, the existing property is drawn just in pure outline, and then when it comes to showing an extension, it is hatched, some sort of effort at showing bricks and tiles, which makes it very looming, and we should bear that in mind. I think that's all. When we're actually looking at some of these drawings, they're not really proper drawings as an artist might produce. They are line drawings with ACAD, with AutoCAD.
Yeah. All right, so members happy not to object to this one, but we have the wording in there that we're minded to. Yeah. Hands to show for that one, please. Yeah, we've got enough. Thank you. Okay, so sorry, cat's movement. Okay. 7 point what are we on now? 7.7. Is it Pytle Cottage, Western Avenue? That one. Okay, anybody want to speak on this one? No? Okay, so hands up to not object to this. Yep, we've got enough. Thank you. 7.8, 45 Auvergne Avenue. Anybody want to comment on this one? Carolyn, and then Councillor Cllr.
Yes, we just wanted to point out that they've done away with the chimney, perfectly good chimney. There seems to be absolutely no rhyme or reason for doing away with the chimney, and indeed it seems to overbalance the elevation as seen from the front. Even if they block it up, I mean, there's just no need to take the chimney off. So it's a small detail, but it makes a difference to the street scene.
No, you're absolutely right. It will make a difference to the street scene. Councillor Cole and then Councillor Ralph.
Thank you. Yes, Carolyn's got her own back because it's exactly what I was going to say. Thank you very much for that, Carolyn. The only one point is that we're not sure if the garage is going to remain or not. One wonders if there's going to be room to keep the garage there, but there is sufficient parking on the driveway in front, I think.
Okay, Councillor Ralph.
Thank you, Chair. Reference the chimney. If they're going to remove the chimney breast internally, it won't support a chimney in situ as it is, therefore it should be removed, obviously, because you don't want it falling down. Equally, at Buckingham Society, it was suggested by a colleague that they could put a small, not a small, but a dummy, lightweight chimney on there to maintain the street scene that didn't need lots of support from underneath, that would mitigate in favour of removing the chimney breast to get extra room in the rooms, and yet maintain the look of the thing.
Okay, so I get the feeling that we're minded not to object to this, but should we have the similar wording to the previous one, where we would prefer them to have a false chimney, as it were, to continue with the street scene? Yeah,
please.
Okay, so show of hands to not object.
May I ask a question before you go to the vote?
I had already gone to the vote.
All right. Okay.
Sorry. So hands, sorry, show of hands again. Yeah, we've got enough. Thank you. Was it a general question that Catherine can answer now, though, Martin?
Well, maybe it could go into that notice. Because the side extension is going to the right and the chimney was on the end of the original house, is the new chimney going to be put where it was, or where it would then have been at the end of the house, which would have been or will now be on the extension? So, i.e., will it sit in the middle or a third in, or will it be on the end?
Carolyn?
If I can just add a suggestion to that question. I think the whole point about the elevation there is that it is the original house one is trying to show in the original house, and what is being put on is a 21st century extension. And I'd rather the false chimney, if it's required, looking at the ground, at the internal arrangements, it's not clear that the chimney is in any way being discarded entirely. It just been taken off the roof. But to take Anthony Ralph's point about, yes, if it's clearly, if the chimney breast has got to go, then the false chimney on the top is better on the original house, showing that the extension is subsidiary.
Okay. All right, thank you. 7.9, 11 Roswell Court. Single story front extension. Any comments? No? So show of hands not to object to this one. Yep, I've got enough, thank you. 7.10, we've got 31 Bortonville. Would anybody like to comment on this one? Carolyn?
Sorry, me again.
No, go for it. You're here to represent the Buckingham Society, so.
Yes, and we actually have feelings that this Bortonville particular block of houses here, it's a really good development of post-World War I new housing. It's absolutely iconic of its time. In fact, we think it's almost worthy of listing. It's so typical of that era of house building. It is also very symmetrical. And much as we appreciate the need for modernizing some of the living accommodation, we think this extension really undoes the symmetry and the whole integrity of that 1920s conception. So we would object to it on those grounds. Although I agree it's not listed and it's not exactly visible from the street scene, but it does definitely unbalance the block. And we also wonder if the parking isn't also contrary to the design guidelines, because it's stuffing 3 cars onto what looks like a shared space. So again, from that point of view, it's certainly going to upset the street scene.
Taking your comments on board, I don't think it's a planning reason, as it is a rear extension, so it's not going to be seen from the street. Any other comments on this? I know parking was definitely an issue that Carolyn brought up. Any no? Okay, so sorry, John, didn't see you on there. Go for it.
Yeah, just to say, I think Carolyn's second point about parking, which was highlighted by Catherine's report, I think is the important one to mention here. And I think this is therefore overdevelopment on that basis. There isn't room for, we've objected to other properties, with extra bedrooms and so on, where if there isn't parking that's adequate to the number of bedrooms, and living near to this road, I know what parking is like on Bortonville and so on. And it's and this is probably going to add to this. So I think we should object to it on that basis. And therefore I think it's overdevelopment.
Okay, so you're going for object on the grounds of overdevelopment and parking. Okay, so a show of hands to agree with John that we object on the grounds of overdevelopment and parking. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, we've got enough. Thank you. Okay, 7.11. Amended plans, land west of Moulton Road and Castle Milk. Who would like to start on this one? Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chairman. Here we go again, 130 houses at Maids Morton 3. You'll all remember that this was refused originally, and the applicant Spellway Homes, they appealed. The inspector recommended approval of the plan until the Secretary of State in 2017 overruled his own inspector on the basis it was located beyond the boundary settlement identified in the Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan and was not allocated for development. The Secretary of State interpreted this as a conflict policy to which he applied substantial negative weight. This was actually a really good endorsement of the neighbourhood plan, and for Sheena and everyone involved, this was a great victory for us. Now here we are back again 4 years later. The site, which is BUC 043, is being put back into VALP, but, and here's the big but, the reason we are going to see the inspector on April the 15th is because there is an application that site, together with Maids Morton 006, should be removed from the VALP because of the lack of the western bypass. And that is one of the arguments we're making. So it's quite possible this may not happen, but as Catherine pointed out at our briefing today, we still have to cover ourselves. We opposed and attended this, proposed and attend on February the 20th last year. And the Buckingham Society also put together a really good and well-reasoned package, but it did not happen. And for both those reasons, which are unchanged, even with the amendments, totally unchanged, since February 2020, we should continue to oppose and call in this plan.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stutchbury, then Councillor Harvey.
Just some points of clarity, really, because I can't comment on it because this is one which I took called to committee for you. So I won't comment on it. Okay. Have we had any, for clarity, because have they given a time frame? Because presumably, till corrected, this application could come forward at any point. There's nothing stopping them bringing this application forward. or will it have to wait until as it wasn't directly, it's been linked to that inspectors? Will the inspectors slowly bringing forward this application? Because what I worry about is them putting in a PIP application and then avoiding all forms of trilogy on this. I don't know if that's a possibility. Have we got an early sign? The other thing I think we need to clarify I think, is which committee would consider this application, because the last large development went to strategic development control, whether this would go to the area local North Bucks planning or whether it would go to the strategic development control. It made a difference in the opinion. It made a difference in the conversation, let's say, about that application when it was agreed, because I know that many of the people in the room here spoke very strongly at that meeting. I watched it. So I think that we need to get some clarity on those things, irrespective of going to the inspector, because if it comes forward, it'll come forward.
Okay, would you like Catherine, have you got an answer for Robin?
Well, the new constitution sets the limit for strategic development meetings as 450, I think, or something like that, ludicrously high anyway, compared with the sort of sites we're likely to see now. It can't go to the next strategic sites committee because the consultation period, our consultation, the shorter one, ends after strategic sites, and then there isn't another one till June. So we've got time for the inspector to write his report even. There's 11 weeks between the next committee meetings are the beginning of April, and then there aren't any till June. They've been cancelled. So that's an 11-week gap, which is quite a long time.
Okay, so answer your question, Robin.
According to the Constitution, it's not eligible to go to strategic, so it'll have to go to North Bucks. But there might be because, I mean, 130 is not so far off 170 that Walnut Drive was, and that went to strategic.
Well, that's what my worry is. I think that maybe we should seek clarity, or you should seek clarity on how they, irrespective of the outcome of the inspectors, how they envisage dealing with this application, because it was quite a challenging decision, let's say, in Mays Morton, which is now part of the inspectors' deliberations, and this is part of it. I think we need to seek some clarity from the council on that, I think, because it makes a lot of difference.
I will see if I can find out from the business manager what he's intending on this one.
Thank you.
Councillor Cole.
Yeah, just as an aside from what Catherine's saying about there won't be another strategic or area committee till June, we have to be careful that the developers don't try and go for non-determination. It may well be past that, unless, of course, there is a sort of a period where, because of the elections, that is suspended. I don't know how that works, but
Carolyn.
Thank you. Yes, I think clearly at the hearing on 15th of April, the Society will be making a sort of joint objection, particularly to development at Morton Road, along with Mays Morton one, because the chief objections to putting basically 300 houses on that side of Buckingham is they've all got to come down the Morton Road. And the travel plan for this particular one, BUC043, it has taken no account of the S106 draft suggestions for the Mays Morton site, in that Mill Lane, College Farm Road, as the county like to call it, is going to be discouraged from using traffic. So there's no reason for them to not use the Morton Road, along which they're having advisory cycle route signs. So poor cyclists have got to negotiate a road that is going to have traffic from Morton Road, obviously phases 1 and 2, Mays Morton Village, plus the developments that are going to impinge on the Morton Road at the police station and possibly 38 Morton Road, as well as manage a cycleway down a steep hill and up a steep hill. It's completely ludicrous. And these are definitely some of the arguments we should be putting forward at the hearing. And I'd also like to point out that this monitoring idea, which has been raised with the Maids Morton planning application too, it's basically sticking plaster. The problems are going to happen. So the monitoring is just a useless sort of phrase put on to try and mitigate against what we all know is going to be chaos on the Morton Road and particularly at the Old Tail roundabout.
Yeah. Okay, quickly, Councillor Stutchbury, and then we'll go to the vote.
It's just a point of information. I just checked my diary. I've got a meeting for North Bucks Area Planning Committee on the 7th of April.
Yes, but the consultation period for this doesn't end till the 13th. They can't possibly take it to committee before our consultation. And the public consultation period is even longer than ours. You know that.
Yes, okay. Just that we said that it appears. I mean, other committee meetings have been cancelled because I'm on a reserve list for another planning committee, and that's been cancelled. So whether that one will actually go ahead, I don't know.
Well, as I say, the May ones have been cancelled on the website. It says so. So there isn't one till the June one now, after the April ones. And if I mean, we get 3 weeks, the public get 8 weeks on a consultation. So this one isn't going to expire until May. So they can't take it to the April meeting.
Yeah. Okay, so show of hands to object to this one, please. That is almost unanimous. Thank you very much.
Remember, I'm abstaining because I'm able to talk for you on this. So.
Yeah, no, that's the caveat that we're going to put on all of them, Robin.
Yes.
Okay, so we have planning decisions now, item 8. Would anybody like to discuss 8.1? No, thank you. 8.2, we've got planning inspector at Tesco's. That's been dismissed, the appeal. So that's good. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think we should take very strong note of this. Catherine's pointed out this is the first PIP, permission in principle, that Buckinghamshire Council has dealt with in our area, certainly the erection of 9 dwellings, which was dismissed at appeal. It's worth reading the applicant's responses to Buckingham Town Council's objections, because they answer all our objections, but not in a way that impressed the inspector, and he refused it. The main thrust of it all was that the inspector said Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan shows the site is in an industrial area. Its close incompatible relationship of the site to commercial industrial users. Occupiers would be exposed to significant levels of activity throughout every day, every week, and every weekend. And the location would provide poor living conditions for occupiers. He noted that although we haven't specifically earmarked that little bit of land for industry, that it was so closely tied in to Tesco and to all the industry around it that it couldn't be separated. So that was a big victory for us, and also not just to assuage Councillor Stutchbury's concerns about PIPs, they can also be defeated.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 9, Buckinghamshire Council Members, 9.1. We've got Councillor White and Councillor Stutchbury present. Who would like to go first? Warren?
Thank you. Sorry, I was waiting for Councillor Stutchbury, but
I was waiting for Councillor White.
So I chose.
I was going to mention the ARC, but you've covered that in detail already. I note your comments about the highways relation to that site next to Ganderton's. I will certainly take that up, even though it's not in my ward. I think there is an interesting point there that sits within my cabinet role. So I'll certainly bring that back and find out what happened there, because that doesn't seem quite right to me. Councillor Cole did forget to mention that I will also be at the planning inspector's hearing on the 15th. So if there is any joint working together, please don't forget your Buckinghamshire councillor. There are a number of things you've discussed tonight that I've completely forgotten. Your elected Buckinghamshire councillors. We are also here in the town representing Buckingham. The neighbourhood plan and the design guide that you've talked about in private completely excluded us that aren't town councillors. I'm not sure that's great use or coordination with your Buckinghamshire councillors. You might recall that I actually was the chairman of the planning committee that had the first Buckinghamshire plan and got us to be a front runner in neighbourhood planning, and yet I've been excluded from the town council's neighbourhood plan discussions, which is a little bit disappointing, because I would have hoped I could have shared some of that experience and given some insight. But it's just a plea, really. Don't forget you do have Buckingham-based Buckinghamshire councillors representing Buckingham in Aylesbury. And if we're not included in your discussions, we can't represent your views in Aylesbury. So it's a bit of a plea. It's a little bit disappointing to end on that sort of note, but this is not the first time you've excluded me and I believe Charlie, who's also not a town councillor, in Buckingham-related issues that we can actually fight with you in Aylesbury. So you've made a number of comments about Buckinghamshire Council tonight, which are not particularly true or accurate. So I just really want to just give you something to reflect on, that actually it's a two-way street, and you've excluded us from a lot of things this year, and I hope that doesn't happen in the new council.
I feel like I've been told off by the headmaster.
I was only a lecturer for a year, so.
Your points are noted, Councillor White. Thank you very much. Yep. Councillor Stutchbury.
Just to say that I'll be interested in your views on that candidate and things as a Buckinghamshire Council warrant. I'm pleased that you're paying an interest in it. It is in my area, but I'm only too pleased that you're looking at it, and I thank you for your support. I was going to do similar, so if we could share correspondence on that, that'd be really good, Warren, so that I can back you up and we can back each other up. That's the way to do this. Can I just make a suggestion? Because though Warren said it now, he has wanted to be involved in the neighbourhood plan, and the neighbourhood plan still being put forward. When we get into the better stages of it, it might be really good to have bring the Buckinghamshire Council post-election into some of the discussions, not obviously the decision for Buckingham Town Council, but some of the information and gathering, and if they got any valuable information that they can bring. I think that's a good thing to do. I think he's right on that. I think it was. I don't think there was any deliberate snub to anybody. I think it's just how it ended up, with the meetings taking place irregularly and in the day quite often. And if you notice in the minutes of the last meeting, both Councillor Morge and I had other meetings, so we had to give our apologies to those meetings anyway. So, so I think that's it. And I will be taking a question to the cabinet on the 30th. Funny enough, it's actually to do with the element of the Cambridge Art, which we were the real Cambridge Art, but not the element of the paper that we got before for us. There's some elements in that I'm personally concerned about as a Buckinghamshire Council. As I stated, I'm concerned about the sustainability of the government's proposals, and basically I'm seeking some clarity from the council around that. I don't want to compete with the council on it, but I think that it needs discussing in open forum. And I think I might be pushing at an open door in my opinions after listening to Councillor White tonight. But that's for the cabinet meeting to decide. But that's what I should be doing, and everything else isn't to do with planning. So I won't mention that, apart from the fact that I did have one or two I don't know whether Councillor White's had the same historic applications which have never been determined. There's been one or two of those. When they have, one or two of them have now been determined. And then I got another one. I think, I don't know this, I've got no evidence to prove this, but I think they were applications when the Historical District Council had officers seconded in to do stuff. I think some of those applications, because every one of them has got a familiar pattern, the person doesn't work for the Buckinghamshire Council. So I can imagine it's when Mr. and Mrs. Blake had this agency view of employing agency people to do planning. And there was a lot of agency people doing planning work. I think the council's trying to not do much of that now. So hopefully going forward, it'll be better. But people are unhappy if their applications aren't determined. And to be fair, the council is responding and as I say, two of them have been done and I've responded on a third one this week. I don't know whether it's just they were 2019 applications. I don't know what's special about 2019, but anyway, that's where we are. But that's enough on planning. We got full council to talk about all the other rigmarole.
Thank you. Does anybody want to ask councillors questions while they're here? No. Thank you for your updates. 9.1.1 to receive for information a meeting that was held. You've all read Appendix J, I take it. Yep. Don't all shout at once. Yeah. Okay. Would anybody like to comment on them? No. Okay. Thank you. 9.2. So what applications have we got to call in, Catherine?
19 Bridge Street. We've opposed but minded to change. We don't need to call that in if we're minded to change, do we, really? Sandhurst and Oven, and then we're back with the opposing Morton Road. But we've already got Councillor Stutchbury calling that one in, I think, anyway, on its original. So
yeah. Okay, so it's really 19 Bridge Street then. Who do we want to call that in? Are you suggesting anybody, Robin?
This is, well, at the moment, I wasn't going to suggest about the call-in and Bridge Street. I'd quite like someone other than Warren and myself to do some call-ins, really.
That's difficult because we go to all of the councillors and they don't want to play ball with us. Well, so there's a reason.
I have something to say on that. Unfortunately, because of that situation, I've had a pushback on and expressed a view on it on the development at Western Avenue of the flats which were out of Vale Housing.
That's the next item. We're going to come to you on that. We want an update.
Okay,
on that
well, I'll
one.
leave that there and I won't go anymore. But I please do try one of the other councillors because I'm sure they would. I'm happy to do anything for you, but I do think they ought to have a chance to earn their stripes on this, and it might be good for them to go through the process.
It's not about giving them a chance to do it. We go out to all of our shire councillors and we get flat refusals or their own comments and no, they're not going to call it in.
Well,
they just don't answer their emails or they don't answer their phone, which is unfortunate.
I'll call it in, and I think it's the same application that Councillor White was going to look at the junction with. So it might be. If I'll call it in, but I think it'd be good if Warren and I ever talk about that outside the meeting to see because we're going to talk on the junction on those other issues. But I'll need your reasons for calling it in, which is separate to that. That's a separate action.
I appreciate your offer.
So I'll do it.
Appreciate your offer. Thank you, Councillor Harvey.
I think it's worth approaching the other shire councillors for that part of town. Robin, as he said, does take quite a lot of the concerns we have to the council, why don't we ask either Councillor Howard Morley or Councillor Charlie Cllr? It is their patch, and they ought to be as concerned about it as we are. And if they say, "Oh no, I don't think I can," then I think we should note that, because this is a matter of great concern to local people. There's been a lot of talk about it on social media, and Mr. Ganderlin, who lives next door, is pretty fed up about it as well. I can't understand why Councillor Cllr or Councillor Morgie would not want to be seen to be taking this and calling it in, because it's something that really ought to be stopped.
Well, on this application, I have to be fair, I've just offered to call it in and we haven't actually asked them. So although I think the history of the thing is pretty grim, but this is too important to miss. So leave it that I'll call the application in. I'll liaise with Catherine. What time frame have we got, Catherine?
Well, you got 21 days from when you were told about it.
Okay, well,
so you must have had an email.
I have lots of emails presently. Can we prepare something with the planning reasons pretty quick?
Making the assumption that you get your email the same day I do. I got it on the 16th of March, so you've got 21 days from that. So we've got a while yet.
No, that's all right. Well, in which case, should we try and look at it at the end of the week?
Well, I mean, by Friday, I shall have got chairman's okay on the responses from tonight. So if I send you,
shall we try and do it on look
Robin,
at it on Friday?
Robin,
then? Is that all right?
Robin, can you stop interrupting Catherine? She was talking.
If I send you what we're sending as the response on Friday, then we can talk. Monday should be fairly free. So.
Okay, thank you.
Do members agree that we asked Robin to call it in based on our experience of the other councillors? I'm quite happy. Show of hands for Robin to call it in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we've got enough. Thank you. Thank you, Robin, for offering to do that, because it is an important one, and it does get a bit depressing when we'll see on Appendix K when we can see exactly who does and does not do what we asked them to do. Right, you're up again, Robin, on 9.2.1. If you've got a report on any progress with the acceptance of the title call-in.
Well, unfortunately, I went back to my correspondence. I had a series of correspondence with the officers over it, and what I was told, even though I put it in on what I believe to be the correct day, and I copied Catherine into that, because I only got it because of circumstances like the call-in situation, asking people to do it. It came to me really late, but it was in time, and I called it in, and then I was told I was out of time, and that I didn't get it through, I'm afraid, because I was told it was out of time. Now, normally it's happened, but it didn't happen in this case. I've got correspondence. I'm not going to discuss officers' correspondence. It's not correct, but basically we've missed the boat on this, so I don't know if I've got any comeback. I'm quite willing for Catherine and the officers to look at the correspondence, see if I've got anything we can come back, because I was within the time period of the day, and I was told that I'd missed it. So even though I technically did it, I think at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the cut-off was at 5 o'clock, I was told I'd missed the time period. So I don't know what to say about that. It could be that I was wrong with the time period, but we need to establish it, because that means you're calling. Whatever my opinion about that application, I've never said, but your calling has been missed. So I apologise for that. It's not something I can do about. I did what I was asked to do, and it didn't happen.
Okay, so you're right. You would think that the cut-off would be the end of the work day, not at 2 o'clock in the afternoon of that day. So it's almost like they're picking and choosing what to do. So Okay, if you want to share those emails with the office, then I'm sure Catherine will appreciate any update on that. Okay, 9.
I need to say that I'm looking in my inbox. I can see Warren's already actioned the email to Chrissy over the junction. So he's already done it while he's sat in the meeting. I'm sat here reading his email now. So
all right, thank you for doing that, Warren. 9.3, an updated list of undecided opposed and attend applications. So you can see exactly which of our Shire councillors is being helpful and who isn't. Any comments on that one? No, thank you. Item 10, Buckinghamshire Council committee meetings. There's no applications. So move on to enforcement, 11.1. Any new breaches? Has anybody found anything new to report on enforcement? Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, in Cornwall's Meadow, there's been a change of ownership of what was Willow Spring Dry Cleaners. New boards have gone up. Bradley Dry Cleaners it's in the conservation area. Has permission been sought for this? I think enforcement should be told.
Okay, thank you. I think, John, you found one as well, didn't you, Councillor Harvey?
I found 3 actually. The 2 that I mentioned on the agenda are both ones that I spotted, and there's a third one that I think Catherine had already spotted anyway, but maybe not the sign on the road going up to the new Summerhouse Hill estate. A chiropractor, I think it is, stuck a sign on what is a building that is within the conservation area and should have applied for that purpose.
I have to say that I've got an interest on that item because I've just started going to them for shoulder pain. I shan't discuss anything with them.
Right. Any more to make a set of 3?
Pardon, say that again.
Is there any more to make a set of 3?
Councillor Suchbury.
Just think Councillor Mark Cole raised this issue of the car on the bypass almost several months ago. Now, we've all had a stab at it and nobody seems to ever be able to get this car. I don't know what's so special about this car. Can we get it listed? Can we?
We did joke about that at our last meeting.
Shall we apply to have it as a listed feature of Buckingham?
Yeah.
And see where we can get it into a work of art, because it's Councillor Mark Cole, he speak for himself, but he looked at it. It got no tax, no insurance. It's on the side of the highway. It's being driven by various police officers on a regular occasion. The enforcement people come into Buckingham on a regular occasion for tax and whatever, and it always seems to miss it. So it must have a talisman on it which avoids it from enforcement. Now, we wrote to the council and were told this, that and the other, so let's not go down those avenues again. But maybe we should just write to the Chief Constable and ask him whether he feels it's appropriate to have a vehicle sat on the highway in Buckingham on unmeasured and unenforced, and see whether that does any good. And if he hasn't done anything post-election, maybe we should do a press release about the inefficiency of policing abandoned vehicles on the highway in Buckingham, because it is an ugly thing, and it's become a feature. There's a gentleman sat there when I went for my I had to go to Milton Keynes today, and there was a gentleman sat on it using it as his for his camera today, so he's getting some use out of it. He was using it as a stand to lean on and photograph the cars. I don't know quite what he was doing that for, but good luck to him. So it is getting some use, but I don't think it's a feature. It's not adding anything to Buckingham, and it's downright ugly, isn't it? And let's do something right to the Chief Constable, and post-election, let's do a bit of a press release about our dissatisfaction if it's still there.
Paul, have you got an update on this? Because it has been discussed at length on every meeting I think we've had so far.
Yeah, I mean, as Councillor Stutchbury said, we've tried everything we can. I know we talked about could we treat it as a sign and deal with under devolved services. The short answer is no, we can't. It might have a sign on it, but it is a vehicle, so it's legislation about a vehicle that applies to it. I don't think we could tow it away and claim that we'd removed a sign from the highway.
Could we write to the fire authority?
Robin, could you not just speak, please? But we have reported it as an abandoned vehicle. So why is that not? Why is that system not working? Do you know, Paul?
I don't know. That's a very good question.
Well, maybe we all need to go and report it after this meeting and keep reporting it daily till it's gone. Is there any other enforcement issues? No, move on.
Only to say, Chairman, is it a fire risk? It could catch fire.
It's not that close to any housing. Okay, item 12, consultation. To receive, discuss and agree a response. I think if we go through this tonight, it's going to be a very, very long meeting. So I would like to suggest that we send our answers or questions, our comments to Catherine to collate. Would anybody like to speak on that? Would anybody like to agree with that?
Sensible option.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 13, application to fell trees, Appendix N. So it's unchanged from the last meeting, so just a note really. Item 14, Section 106 Quarterly Update. Anybody like to comment on that? No. Thank you. Item 15, Annual Stats. Interesting reading, I think you'd agree. Appendix P, would anybody like to discuss anything on that? No, thank you. Item 16, Matters to Report. Councillor Cole. You're muted, Mark.
Yeah, there's been roadworks, which is probably a collapsed drain in Stratford Road, just outside the flat. So it's now 2 weeks. The signage is causing queuing at rush hour because it's closing off half of the Stratford Road. Could we find out if anything's being done about this? I don't know if it's a matter for Anglia Water or for Bucks Highway. Someone may know. It looks like Councillor Try might know something about it.
Councillor Stutchbury had his hand first, so I'll go to Robin and then Martin.
No, it's just that the one thing which is, as I go off down the town every day, and it seems to we've had various meetings. There's one with transport for Bucks on Wednesday, but it's when I'm at a audit meeting, so I can't go to it, about getting some of these potholes and some of these fish done around the road. Now they are filled in, but they're not filled in like permanent fillings. They look like they've got sort of, you've gone to the dentist and have a temporary filling, because it doesn't look like they've been planed. So we've got sort of major roads with filling. And the one which forgive me for saying it, because it actually is in Councillor White's areas, I'm really still worried about the bridge over the river, because every time I go over that seems to be getting more and more crumbly, more and more rough, and it does get a lot of traffic. I would imagine it's something that the councillor has been looking at, but it is getting worse. And I think it was Councillor Mark Cole who raised it in the very first place. It has been brought up in meetings. I would imagine that Councillor White's also following it up, but it is deteriorating there, and it is a major road, and it needs somebody back there, I think. And so if we could just try and get some clarity on what it could be, that it's waiting for some major works and we don't know it, or it could be that it keeps getting, they run out of tar by the time they get to it, perhaps. But but it's definitely a worry. When I go out
Indeed.
and go down the town, I always go that way because it avoids the school buses and everything. It's easy to go to town that way, and it's a real quite a worry.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Councillor Try.
Yeah, thank you. Just on that drain coverage there, it is Anglia Water and it's a broken drain cover, which is fractured along one corner. I suppose they own the drain cover, therefore they need to repair it rather than the highways.
Yeah.
I would have thought. So it just may be in their queue of items to do.
We could always email them or phone them and chase it up, because Mark's right. It is
it's congesting.
Yeah, it's quite a long time for it to be left like that. Can I just ask quickly, since Warren is still here, do you have any information on the bridge? Do you know if there's any plans to get it fixed? It's by Broughton Meadow School. Do you know about it?
On which bridge? Sorry, the A4,
the bypass bridge.
Sorry?
The bypass bridge by the school.
I must admit, nothing's been brought to my attention. I rarely drive that bit.
Okay.
The roundabouts were done recently, but I'm not aware of any issue with the bridge. So if it's been reported on Fix My Street, there should be an icon on the map, and I'm happy to chase that up if it's been reported.
Right, thank you. It's only because Robin mentioned you, I thought I'd ask. Thanks. Councillor Cole and then Councillor Stutsbury.
Yeah, I first reported this 2 years ago on my streets. I've reported it 3 more times over the last 2 years, and the last time I reported it was about 2 months ago. It's not so much the bridge that's collapsing, it's the drains either side of the bridge that have collapsed, and they're sunk. If you drive along that road, over that bridge, all the traffic either has to swerve or slow down, particularly when you've got heavy traffic. So, and I don't know what more one can do than report to my streets. For 2 years I've been doing this, so I'm really surprised that Councillor White hasn't been reported to him.
Okay, thank you.
Feel free to send me an email, Mark. I'll happily look into it.
Thank you.
Yeah, good idea. Thank you. Robin?
Only just on I quite often find with Anglia Water, Twitter's quite effective.
Yes, you're right.
If you tweet Anglia Water about a complaint, and I know that I do it, I know other councils do it, they generally get back to you quite quick because they don't like seeing their name on Twitter. And the funnier the photograph you can put there and anything else of it, and I could suggest that you could put a calendar by it, saying how many days it's been there and all this. They like this sort of thing, Anglia Water, and they respond quite quickly.
They do.
I only wish they were responding in the town centres quickly. That's one thing that hasn't happened. I know Councillor White's chasing that as well. But and as for the thing, I think it's a bit the bridge. I did tell the area technician, and I did tell him that it wasn't in our area at a meeting, so the area technician does know about it. And that I only apologised to one. I didn't actually. It didn't. I went off to another meeting. I didn't email him about it, and I apologised for that. And that wasn't meant to have occurred. But so he should go back to. If he goes back to the area technician, he jolly well knows about it because he was told.
All right, thank you. We'll move on from that now. Chairman's items. So, unfortunately, after our agenda was published, we received notification that the applications to demolish both North End and Verney Close surgeries have been appealed on the grounds of non-determination. Due to Easter, the closing date for any further comments happens to be the day after our next meeting. So if members agree, Catherine can circulate our responses from last year, plus the statements of case the applicants have lodged before Easter. So we all have time to read through them. And if we've got nothing new to add, then that's fine. But if you've got any new ideas, we can discuss them at our next meeting and get them collated and circulated and sent off. And if anybody's got anything before the meeting that Catherine can send around for us to read and discuss, that'd be good. So it is unfortunate that we didn't get it put on this agenda, but if members are happy, we'll try and get things sent by email, because having the following day after our meeting is very, very tight, and that's ridiculous. Robin, don't normally comment on chairman's items, but because this is an unusual
it's
one.
just that my understanding of the agreement that the one practice and whatever would have with the NHS is that they can't actually fulfill their contract if they haven't got a building. So they're not going to be demolishing it in any day soon. So I don't know what the sudden rush was to go for this non-determination business. Well, there was plenty of time to do it properly. Also, there's the issue which has been laboured on long and hard on social media about the issue of the application on the Lace Hill development. So until that goes forward, they're not really going to do that because they won't have anywhere to put the patient. So I'm really confused why they've gone down this route, because nobody's given us a sign that the health authority stroke whoever it is given them the money yet to get on with that project. If they have, I'm really pleased, but we just need some clarity about that. So, but I'm also minded of the fact that it's nothing to do with planning, that they've been helping the community out pretty fantastic lately. So just as a side bearing, but I don't know why they're doing it this way. I really don't. It just seems a bit bullish and a bit wrong somehow. They could have gone through the normal process.
Well, you're right, because Howard actually sent an email round fairly recently, Councillor Mordew, to say that there's, they've got no direct plans to start building up on Lace Hill, the medical centre. And as the surgery promised to have an in-town service, a base in the town, I don't quite know why they're wanting this rushed either. Councillor Hirons?
Yeah, they'll want to sell it. They want to know how much money they can get for it. But you only do that when you've got planning permission to demolish the existing premises. I mean, it isn't that they want to do it, but they want to know so they can go to a developer, say, you can knock this down, how much will you give us for the site? Full stop. And that's what they want to do. And of course, they'll have to do that to build the new one anyway.
Yeah, they do need the money for that one, you're right.
Yeah. But they don't actually want it now, but they need to know and have in writing how much they can get.
Okay, thank you for that.
How much are you going to give them, Paul?
Okay, so date of the next meeting is 19th of April, following interim. Happy Easter, everybody, those that celebrate it.
Thank you. Same
Thank
to
you, Paul.
To you.
Thank you, Louise.